Karen's voice could curdle milk, and her glare could stop traffic. On our quiet cul-de-sac, she was the storm no one saw coming until she did. It started with a hedge. My hedge, to be exact, a scruffy row of junipers I'd planted along the edge of my property to mark the boundary between my yard and hers. I'm Jake, 32, a graphic designer who moved to this sleepy neighborhood for peace, not war. My mistake was assuming Karen, my next-door neighbor, shared that dream. She didn't. Karen, a woman whose presence filled a room like a foghorn, decided my hedge was an affront to her existence. "It's an eyesore," she bellowed one morning, her jowls quivering as she waved a manicured finger at my plants. "You're lowering my property value, Jake. Get rid of it, or I will." I tried reasoning. "Karen, it's on my land. Surveyed and confirmed. You can check the records." But Karen didn't do records. She did ultimatums. By noon, she'd hacked half my junipers to stubs with a pair of garden shears, her sweat-soaked blouse clinging to her as she muttered about her rights. That was the first spark. The war was on. The neighborhood knew Karen. She was the kind of person who'd call the HOA over a mailbox 2 shades off regulation beige. She'd once reported Mrs. Delaney, a sweet 70-year-old widow across the street, for leaving her trash cans out an hour past pickup. Karen's logic? Rules are rules. Her face, round and perpetually flushed, carried a smugness that made you want to scream. But I didn't scream. I planned. After the hedge massacre, I filed a complaint with the HOA. They sent a letter, which Karen ignored. Then I went to the county, got my property line resurveyed, and confirmed what I already knew. Every inch of that hedge was mine. Karen's response? She parked her oversized SUV so close to my driveway I could barely back out. She'd stand there, smirking, as I maneuvered around her car, her arms crossed like she'd won some invisible battle. I'd wave politely, teeth gritted, plotting my next move. The mouth-wan chinsery, the main conflict boiled down to this. Karen believed she owned the world, and I was just renting space in it. She escalated. One evening, I caught her dumping her lawn clippings over my hedge stubs, a green avalanche spilling onto my grass. "Oops," she said, her voice dripping with fake innocence. "Must have missed my pile." I snapped a photo, added it to my growing file of evidence, and called my lawyer friend, Sarah. "Jake," she said, "you need a cease and desist order. She's trespassing and damaging your property." So I filed one. Karen didn't know yet, but her reign of terror was on borrowed time. The next day, I decided to end the border dispute for good. I hired a crew to build a fence 6 feet tall, solid wood, right along the property line. No more hedge, no more ambiguity. The crew worked fast, hammering posts into the ground as Karen's curtains twitched across the street. By dusk, the fence was up, a glorious barrier between her chaos and my peace. I stapled a copy of the cease and desist order to the wood, just for good measure, with a handwritten note. Karen screamed as I blocked her with my fence. Didn't know I filed a cease and desist order. Childish. Maybe. Satisfying. Absolutely. That's when the storm broke. Karen stormed out, her flip-flops slapping the pavement, her voice hitting decibels that could wake a coma patient. "What is this garbage?" she shrieked, jabbing a finger at the fence. "You can't block my view. I'll sue you, Jake. I'll have this torn down by tomorrow." Her face was a tomato-red mask of fury, her hands flailing like she could knock the fence down with sheer will. I stood on my porch, arms crossed, calm as a monk. "Karen," I said, "check the paperwork. It's legal, and you're trespassing again." Mrs. Delaney, watching from her porch, piped up. "Karen, you've been nothing but a bully. Leave the boy alone." Her voice, frail but firm, cut through the evening air. Another neighbor, Tom, a quiet guy who mowed his lawn like it was a religious ritual, joined in. "You've gone too far, Karen. We're all sick of it." The cul-de-sac was turning on her, a quiet rebellion against her tyranny. Karen's eyes darted between us, her confidence cracking like thin ice. Then the police arrived. I'd called them after her lawn clipping stunt, and they'd been monitoring the situation. Officer Ramirez, a no-nonsense woman with a clipboard, approached. "Ma'am," she said, "we've got a report of trespassing and property damage. This cease and desist order says you've been warned. Step back, or you're looking at charges." Karen's mouth opened, then closed, like a fish gasping for air. She sputtered, "This is outrageous. I'm the victim here. But Ramirez wasn't buying it. She handed Karen a citation and told her to leave my property. The fallout was swift. Karen's SUV disappeared from my driveway's edge. Her lawn clippings stopped crossing the border. The HOA, emboldened by my evidence, fined her for multiple violations. Turns out, she'd been breaking rules for years, but no one had the spine to challenge her until now. Word spread. Neighbors started sharing their own Karen stories. The time she yelled at a kid for riding a bike too fast. The time she tried to ban Halloween decorations for being tacky. The cul-de-sac was done with her. But the real Engeep Quatsuri, Karma, came a month later. Karen put her house up for sale. She'd overplayed her hand, alienated everyone, and now the neighborhood was a united front against her. At the open house, Mrs. Delaney accidentally mentioned Karen's antics to every prospective buyer. Tom left a stack of HOA violation notices on her doorstep for show. I didn't have to do a thing. The community had spoken. Karen's house sat on the market for months, her smugness replaced by a desperate for sale sign that grew more weathered by the day. One evening, as I sipped coffee on my porch, I saw Karen loading boxes into a U-Haul. She caught my eye, and for once, she didn't shout. She just looked defeated. Her empire of complaints had crumbled, and all she had left was a moving truck and a bruised ego. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The fence stood tall, my junipers were growing back, and the cul-de-sac was peaceful again. This wasn't just about a fence or a hedge. It was about standing up to someone who thought they could bully their way through life. Karen learned the hard way. You can't trample over everyone and expect to walk away unscathed. The neighborhood found its voice, and I found my peace. Sometimes, justice is as simple as a 6-foot fence and a piece of paper that says, "Enough." The end.